Welcome to this first episode of Vibe Coding. In this episode, I will explain you the basic fundamentals of website, like how exactly a website work. So when we develop a website, which will be a completely dynamic website, you should know how exactly the website is working, right? It mean like what is the server side language, what is designing, what is database, what is server, all those things, and how exactly they all interact with each other. Without that understanding, it will be little difficult to do vibe coding, because even if you are doing the development completely with the help of AI, uh, you should know the basics of website development, or else it will be very difficult for you to uh, go with the website development part. So I will explain you how exactly a website development works. First point is design. Then after the designing is done, we move to development. After that, we have database. We also call it as DB. This is the place where we store all our information, or maybe the user's information. Now, the website designing comes with HTML. Okay, so HTML is the primary language for website designing. But we have to understand that website designing is not only with HTML. So when you design the website, it comes with HTML, where you can understand this as a skeleton of your website. To give the styles and good look and feel for the website, you need CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. So with the help of HTML, which is Hypertext Markup Language, and CSS Cascading Style Sheet, you can design a beautiful looking website. Now comes the interaction part. So let's say if you click on a button, or maybe if you want to submit a form, like a contact form or something, those actions, the brain behind the website will be JavaScript. We also call it as JS. Now, with the combination of these three, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, wherein HTML will be the skeleton of our website, CSS will give the look and feel, the beauty for the website, and JavaScript will be the brain behind the website. Okay, with the help of all these three, you can design a fully functioning static website. Mark my word here, static website. Okay, with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the static website is done. You can host that website. Now, when it comes to hosting the website, where you have to host the website, that's where a server comes. There is a supercomputer, which is commonly known as server. So let's say there is a server located somewhere in your own country, or outside the country, or maybe within your city or somewhere else. So let's say this is a server. What server do is server keeps your file with it. So it's a kind of a storage which is specifically designed with the security levels for the website hosting. Okay. So all your HTML file, CSS file, JavaScript file will be stored in this server. Now what happens? So let's say there is a user which wants to see your website. So that user will come to a browser, for example, ULA browser. It comes to a browser, it types the URL. It can be witrich.com, doopstyle.in, anything. So once the user types the URL, or maybe search for the website, the browser will go and locate the website in the server. So it will locate the website in the server, and the server will returns the file. Which file? This HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file. So in our case, we are calling this as design files. Okay. So it will return the design file to the user, and then user will see the website in the browser. Okay. So there will be a logo, some buttons here and there, some like image, and some text content or whatever it is. This is a beautiful looking website which will come in front of you. So all the files are stored in server. Now, As this is a static website, because it is just a design, it cannot store any user information in the server. Okay, to store the user information in the server, we need the development language. That is dev, the development language. What is development language? There are many. For example, PHP, .NET, Python. There are lot of development language out there. For now, and we are also going to develop our website in PHP, which is a very common server side programming language to develop the website. And most of the server supports PHP. PHP is the language to develop the website. What happens with PHP? PHP is a complete different language, same like HTML is a different language, CSS is a different thing, JavaScript is a different thing. Same way, PHP is also a separate and different language. Now, this PHP is also stored in the same server. Now, this is a language where it is a server side language. We call it as server side language, and we also call it as backend backend language. Why we call it as backend language? Because the PHP code which we write for our website is not visible for the user in the browser. The PHP code is not visible to the user. User cannot see the PHP code here in the browser. It will only see the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then what PHP exactly do? PHP is integrated within the HTML and all, but it is specifically stored in server to communicate with the user and the requirement of the user. Okay, so let's say user wants to create an account in our website. So with the help of PHP, it will help the user to create the account. Okay, the designing and all those things will be taken care by the designing languages. The server side communication will be taken care by the PHP. So let's say if the user wants to create an account, so a user requests to create a new account on a website. So this specific operation will be taken care by PHP, which is stored in the server. Now what happens when a user creates an account? This account information, which can be a email or maybe a phone number, name, password, primarily for any like in general, primarily to create an account, the email and the password is required no matter what it is. The phone number can be optional thing. The name can be saved later but not on the sign up form, but the email and the password is required to create an account. Now, when the user enters the email address and password, it has to be stored somewhere, right? Or else if the user comes back after some days or some time and try to log in with the same email address and the password which the user has already given to us while creating the account, this has to be stored somewhere. So in that case, the database comes in. There are different type of database, MySQL, MariaDB, lot other databases are there. But in our example, we will primarily focus on MySQL. MySQL is a very organized form of storing the database. So now what happens in the servers where all the files are kept. So if you see here, all the files are kept. Which files? HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the designing files, the server side backend language. And then there will be a database. So this is the database where all our data is stored in a row and column structure. This is database. This is rows. These are columns as usual. So username will be stored here. The password will be stored here, something like that. Okay. So this is in general a database where the user's data is stored. Now here what happens, PHP language will have one connection with the database as well. Okay, so it will not go and check any random database in the world. It will specifically go to the database which you own for your website. Okay, the database will have a unique name. A unique name will be given to the database. There will be a unique password to the database. So the unique name and the password for the database will be stored somewhere in PHP. There is one file called environment file, also known as .env file. So this file is a highly secured file. This is where the server comes into the picture, and this env file is stored in server but not accessible to anyone except the development team of the website, and that too they can access this env file after entering to the server and looking at the architecture of the website. The users and all whoever do not have direct access to see the files in the server, they will not able to see the env file by any cost. In this env file, all the information of the database will be stored. For example, username, password, IP address, and all those things. Now, whenever there is a request by the user to create an account, the PHP language, okay, so the user requests the account, the PHP language will hit the server, it will check the database, it will see whether the information which is provided by the user, which is the email address and password, is already available in the database or not. If the information is already available, the database will send back the information to PHP stating user is already available, and the PHP will come to the design part, the website part, and with the help of the design language, it will show the user that the email address and the password which you are using is already available in the system. That means you are already a user of this website. So instead of creating an account, please sign in. Now user knows, okay, my information is already there. I will sign into the website. It goes to the sign in page, uh, opens the sign in form, and then fill out the information, then hit the sign in button. It again comes to the PHP language. PHP will come to the server, it will communicate with the database, just check whether the information provided by the user, that is email address and password, both are matching. It is case sensitive. If both information match, the database sends the request to the PHP saying that yes, the information matches, and then the PHP will run a logic and the user will be logged in. In the same process, if the information provided by the user, which is username and password, do not match with the record, the MySQL will send the information that information do not match. The PHP will come to the design and tell the user that the information which you provided do not match with our records. So this is how the overall process works. So let's have a revision here, which I will mark it with the green color. So there are three primary sections for us, which is design, development, and database. In designing, three primary languages comes in. One is HTML, then CSS, and JS. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet, and JS stands for JavaScript. These three primary languages are responsible for the designing of the website. HTML is the skeleton of the website. CSS brings the beautification for the website, and JavaScript is kind of a brain of the website where all the interactions like clicking to a button, filling the form, changing page content, expanding and collapsing some of the UI elements, all those things are taken care by the JavaScript. All these files are stored in a special computer called server. When a user request for the website, the browser comes to the server, request for the files, and the server gives back all the files, the designing files, and then the website is visible to the user. Now, with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, we can design the website. That designing of the website will be called as a static website that doesn't store and retrieve the data. for the user, because of which we call it as static website, which is designed with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then we come to the development part of the website. For our example, in the development part, we are going to use the PHP as our language. So the PHP is again a code which is again stored in the server along with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. PHP is called as server-side language, also called as backend language. So what happens is PHP generates the logic, rules, functions, all those things. When the user wants to create an account, the logic is taken care by the PHP to execute that action. Now, when it comes to creating an account, the data which is shared by the user has to be stored somewhere. That's where the MySQL database comes in. The MySQL database stored all the data in a special database, which is a structured database. The PHP language holds the database password so that it doesn't go and check the random database in the world. The database information is stored in a special file called .env file, which is a environment file. All the user information will be stored in this database. Whenever the user requests for a new account, the PHP which is there stored in the server will execute the function with the help of the database. The database throws back the information and user sees the information. If the user information is there, it will check the logic and it will proceed to the next step, or else it will reject the operation by the user and it will ask the user whether to check the credentials, or if the user account is not available, please create an account. So this is one of the basic structure process which is primarily used in all the ways. Uh, Design is required, development is required, MySQL database is required. I took the example of creating an account, but no matter what it is, it goes with the same process. Now, with the help of PHP and MySQL, what we can do specifically is the operation called as CRUD operation. CRUD, CRUD operation. So C stands for create. It can create a record. It can create a new account. It can create a new information, whatever. It can create a new data in one simple language, if I say. R stands for read. It can read the data which is there in the database. U stands for update. Update data. So if you want to update your password, if you want to update your image, if you want to update your about us information, whatever it can be, U is update. And D stands for delete. Delete data. This is what exactly a dynamic website do. It creates the data, it reads the data for you to show in front of you, it updates the data if it is required, and it can also delete the data if you don't want to. So when we develop a website, we are creating a CRUD operation. And it's not mandatory that all create, read, update, delete has to be there in each and every function. In some of the function, it can only create the data. In some of the function, it can only read the data. In some of the function, it can only update the data. In some of the function, it can only delete the data. But in overall, in the entire website, for one specific operation, in this example, let's say if you want to create new account. So the new account will be created when you want to log into the data. When you want to log into the website using the same data which is created, the PHP will read the data which is there in the server. Then it will show you the data which is there in the database. And then if you want to change your password, then it will be update the data. And just because of any reason, if you don't want to keep your account in that specific website, you can go ahead and delete your data. If you understood this, then we are good to go to start with our development of a website. We will start with a very basic website in the next episode of this video. So thank you for watching this video and see you in the next one.